Hey guys, James here for Firestar Rating 22. I believe it was Overlord FX or something like that that asked me on my last video about freehanding, and I told him I'd do a quick vid, so this is it. Probably not terrible quick, but quick enough. Try to show you guys a couple things that I do. You know, see if maybe it'll help you out, maybe not, but I'll make a video anyways. Alright, so let's see here. Oh, this camera doesn't want to be in the right spot, does it? Alright, camera, now that we're working. Okay, so a couple quick tips. Oh, let's see here. So for doing freehand work, this is what Overlord FX was referencing, was from the last video, like on the wing here, I'm guessing, is one of the things he's referencing, this type of stuff. And also maybe like the hard line highlights that you see there, and then also like running along the edges in here and stuff on some of the places where you can't just use the side of the brush. Sometimes you have to, you know, go straight. Let's see here. Set this back down real quick, and I'll show you. Alright, so first thing, quick tip, and probably the easiest thing that most of us kind of learned in, should have learned in school. To draw a straight line, the easiest thing is to use a ruler. So what I use is, for bigger things like vehicles and stuff like that, if possible, is I've actually got it's a clear ruler here. It's a cheap one I got for free, but you can go and you can buy them, or just get a piece of like plexi and cut it straight with like a paper cutter or something like that. But it's bendable is the most important thing. It's really thin, bendable, and it's nice that it's this plastic, because I can clean it off every once in a while, make sure that I'm not going to transfer paint or anything like that, and I got a nice straight edge. So the thing with this is, when you're using this, when you're going to do a straight line, you want to make sure that you don't have your paint as thinned out as you normally would. If you're like me, you thin out your paint a whole bunch, and if you do that, let me grab something real quick. Here's something. If you thin it out too much, it'll run underneath easier, but if you leave it a little bit thicker, then it can be a lot easier to keep your line straight without having a run or a drip go. So, you know, just make sure that you got it snug, flat, and you can kind of just follow it along, you know, on whatever it may be. And if you get a starting point like that, now see, now my paint's too thick, and thin it out, but you know, and then it's easier, you can come right back on it, line back up, do another one, you know, and you can just keep doing that until you get the line that you want. So, you know, that's just a quick tip on doing straight lines like that. So ruler, nice thin one, flexible. It's got to be flexible, and make sure that when you're doing it, you hold it, you got pressure on it, so it's nice and tight, so less chance of there being a run. And make sure that you're kind of going at an angle with it, so you're pushing up in between the ruler and the surface that you're working on, and that'll help you keep it nice and straight. And you know, don't try to do it in one line. You know, do several thin coats like usual, but not too thin. Remember, don't have your paint like water thin, like a lot of times like I do, because otherwise it even with it pressed tight, once you go and lift it up, or if you move it all or anything like that, or if there's a little gap, it'll leak, and then it'll look kind of goofy. So that's one technique for doing straight lines. Now the thing he was talking about with freehand, he did mention is practice. A lot of it is just practicing and practicing, but one thing that you can do in the beginning to help out is actually using like a stencil. One technique that I learned was is two things. Masking tape. Now this is the crap kind. Don't use this. I'm just using this to demonstrate. I didn't want to use up a bunch of my other stuff. I've got some actual model tape here. It's Testers is what it is, or no, not Testers, Tamiya is what it is, and they've got like a, here, one second, little tape dispenser thing here. It's called Tamiya, T-A-M-I-Y-A, and this stuff's excellent, and it's really nice and small, so it works really good for models. It's nice and thin, and you can get this stuff at a lot of like railroad shops and stuff like that. Use this, or places that sell like those RC cars and RC planes. That's the big use of this stuff. So yeah, if you can find some of this stuff works excellent. Stuff's really good. I don't hardly ever use it, as you can see, but when you do want to use masking tape, this is the stuff to use on models. Alright, so, but anyways, what you do is you get some masking tape and some wax paper, just like that, and then you would take and let's see if I got like a pencil, and for me at least, it's easier to sketch something else, or sketch something out instead of painting it out, because if I sketch it out first, I can fix mistakes. So, you know, like if you're trying to do something for like, I'm just saying here, for like maybe dark elder or something like that, where it's just a lot of kind of tribal type shapes and stuff, you can, you know, work out your kinks first before you actually get too into it, and end up, you know, with a big old mistake. So it's kind of a cool thing to use, is this mask tape, and I'll show you here now. So what you do is you'd sketch out your design or whatever, and then if you have one of these things work pretty cool. It's a swivel blade here, so it's easier to go around corners and stuff. But if not, I got that not terrible long ago, I suppose, and before that I used just regular razor blade, which you can use. I'll show you here. So then you would just go about cutting out your design that you want. Now, what you want to cut out is actually the inner part. You want to leave the outside of the tape is going to be the part that's going to actually, you know, be your stencil, obviously. So what you're doing here is you're trying to cut out the inset of it. If I can get you to, I can get this to, doing this kind of quick, but that's okay. We're not going for perfection right now, we're just going for a visual demonstration. So, oh, and then also when you're laying your tape down, make sure that you're laying it to the wax part of the paper. Otherwise, when you try to peel it off, you're gonna lose your stickiness. And again, that's why you want to use, like, if you're gonna use like stuff that you buy at the hardware store, try to get like the I believe it's the frog kind. It's like actual painter's tape. That stuff's really good. Something that's not, you know, if you pay for it cheap, it's just gonna be, it's not gonna be very sticky, and it's not gonna work very good. So make sure that you know, don't be a cheapskate on your tape. Alright, so now once you got this cut out, you just gotta go about the business now. Be more careful than I am with this. I'm just kind of plucking this out, but you know, you want to make sure that you got all of it cut straight and smooth. You don't want any jagged edges or weird points or anything like that. Otherwise it's going to show up. Now you can touch it up once you know, once you lay it down there, and it'll be a little bit easier once you have kind of a guideline. But again, it's better, you know, if you don't have to do it over and over, it's better just to do it right the first time than trying to do it over and over again. Alright, now you also see that when I did this, I overlapped it. There's a reason for that. Alright, I didn't cut this very good at all, so it's going to come out kind of all goofed up, but if I can give you the main idea here. I ripped a piece too. Alright, So you can see I kind of overlapped it here too, the tape, so that way when I pull it up it's going to stick together. It'll be one piece. So then once you get your design cut out, you would take it and peel it up from here off the wax paper. By having it on the wax side, it's still going to keep its stickiness. So you peel it up. Now if you're doing this, be a lot slower than I am and be more careful, especially if it's got thin tabs and stuff. You want to kind of work around one side at a time, like so. Just kind of work in a clockwise type ordeal and just work until you got the whole thing peeled off. Alright, and then you'd have something like that. You'd have your stencil. So then you'd take that, and depending on where you want it, now this can be hard to use this on places where it's curved and stuff like that. It works really good for like smooth edges on like Tau vehicles and stuff like that, whereas that's where I used to use a lot of it. But then you'd place it, start at one corner, get that stuff placed in first, and then kind of make sure you work around again, kind of in a clockwise circle, and get it all laid down nice and flat. Alright, so now I got all my edges out nice and flat, and then I'm going to push down my center tabs, and then make sure that that's nice and snug on there. Alright, so now you got your decal. Now if you got an airbrush, this can make it pretty simple, a quick right in there. But if you don't have an airbrush, that's okay too. I'll show you something real quick. Again, you want to be careful with this, not thinning out your paints as much as normal. Otherwise, even with really good tape, it can still kind of run in between. For demonstration purposes, I thinned mine out quite a bit just to do this quick. Alright, so once you have that down, then you just want to lay it over, or lay it into your stencil, nice and thin. Don't try putting it on thick, otherwise it's gonna mess up this section with my mixing brush that I'm using here. So there we go. Alright, so then there you go. You get it in, a couple nice thin coats. Once you get it to the color you want it, then you can peel it off. Now this probably ain't gonna peel off that good since this is cardstock, but maybe if I do it quick now. Alright, peeling it off, there you go. Alright, so something like that. Now again, this ran, especially since it's on paper, but you get the idea. So that's a good starter way, and once you've done that enough, you'll start to get quicker at it. But that's just a quick stencil way of doing it. Again, it's just masking tape and some wax paper, and make sure that you put the sticky part to the wax part on the wax paper. You'll feel it. There's like a glossy side, and then the other side's kind of papery feeling more, but there's one side that's more wax coated. So alright, now so that's a good way of kind of going around it. And you can also do it like print off something off the computer if you find a design you like, and then just kind of stencil it, or even tape it right on top of your masking tape, and actually cut out the printed picture that you have. Just cut around the edge of that, and then you don't even have to worry about hand drawing it yourself if you're not a very good sketcher or drawer. So then you could just print something off the computer and do it that way. And then of course there is you can buy decal paper online. I don't remember the website, but if just go to Google and put like decal transfer or wet apply decal transfer paper, and you can actually buy decal paper and put it in most inkjet printers, and then you just print off you can print off decals and do it that way. So you could even create your own off like paint or something like that on the computer if you're better at that. But then again, other than that, it's just practice, and you can even practice on some cardstock like this, or practice on sticky notes, anything that you want, or if you've got some old models or something like that, or old tank parts, extra parts or something, you can always practice and take it off with some pine sol or something. So that's I I don't use these decals anymore. That the stuff on the razor wing is just freehand. You know, if you just take your time and start with the outline, or start with it, you know, do a really thin line first of what you're trying to do. You know, just kind of get your basic general shape of what you're gonna do. It doesn't have to be, you know, it doesn't have to be filled in yet or anything like that, but you know, just do it thin, and then you can start thickening it out. You know, start adding some depth to it, and just keep adding out. You know, just keep adding out, filling in, adding out, filling in, until you get something close to what you're looking for. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I mean, it takes a while to start getting steady and getting quick at it. You know, in the beginning, nothing's quick. Everything's about taking your time and practicing. So again, if you do your basic shape of what you're going for, and then just thicken it up, that seems to be a lot easier. You know, it's easier to add than to take away, obviously. So you know, you can just thin line of what you're doing, or the thin outline of what you're doing if you're doing more of a picture instead of like tribal stuff. You know, a thin outline, and then start filling it in, thickening it up, and adding to it. Add to it, don't take away. Don't try to do the whole thing at once. Do the thin version of it, and then add depth to it. That seems to help quite a bit too. And then of course, making sure that you're on a steady surface. You know, make sure that you're in a comfortable spot. If you're all hunched over and trying to do detail work, eventually you're going to start getting cramped up, and that's when you start messing up, is when you're not comfortable. So make sure that you're in a comfortable chair, and that you're in a comfortable sitting position, whatever that may be for you, and that you just you know, you have some comforts in mind, because it does make a difference actually. So alright guys, well I hope that that's helpful to you, and Overlord, I hope that's kind of what you're looking for. Again, you know, it's a lot of practice. Just keep working at it, and eventually you'll get it. So take care everyone, hope this was helpful. Later.